Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 173 of the show, and before we get started, I'll do a bit of house quick because, well, you guys know what I like to do around here, and it only makes sense that we do it, so let's get on with the house cleaning. Obviously, I want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really means a lot to me. You guys constantly keep making time to download these episodes, share these episodes, constantly let me know how you feel about them, because, let's be honest, I can't really do this without you guys since, well, you guys are the people watching this or listening to this, so at that point I'd probably just be a crazy person if you guys weren't, watching this stuff. I would basically be just talking to myself in front of a camera and probably feeling awkward and thinking about that. I'd probably be a weirdo, not gonna lie. But I do thank you guys for coming back and listening. It really, really does mean a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. I also want to say thank you to Patreon backers to supporting the show. You guys are great, and I love you guys to death. Thank you for supporting the show. Obviously, if you haven't, if you couldn't tell, obviously we're doing a video version of the show again, which, as promised, the only difference was, hey, I was going to do Wednesday, but then I got called in for work, so it's like, I didn't really get a chance to record. However, we are doing a Friday episode, so that's why this episode is going live on Friday. Although next week, we'll be back to the regular scheduled programming of doing everything on Wednesday and probably some Friday episodes too. So, fingers crossed everything goes well. But also I might seem a little bit more tired and, well, I'd say not tired, but probably a little bit more relaxed just because me and the guys have been going to the gym. We're going 5 times a week because I realized gaining a good amount of weight during the quarantine period was probably not a good idea. So here we are, and, well, it feels good to be doing the show again. Obviously, thank you guys for all the love and support. I really appreciate it. Obviously, the total downloads, I think we're at 2,485 to be exact. So thank you guys for that. I really appreciate that. But now on today's episode, because this is something that I wanted to talk about for a while. It's not news, it's not groundbreaking information, like something just brand new happened. But it's mostly talking about the whole situation regarding the iPhone 13, or at least that's the alleged name of said phone. And for me, here's the thing. Yes, we know there's a new iPhone coming. There's a new iPhone that comes every single year. We're not going to pretend like this is some, hocus pocus, like it's some new phone that we weren't expecting. No, it's your pretty much tried and true iPhone that's going to look pretty much exactly the same as the iPhone 12. Let's be honest here, it's going to look like a 12. Like, nothing's really going to change. And the main differences that people were talking about is that they'll be eventually with the 13, or the alleged name, we don't know. We're just using the 13 since that's a more, I wouldn't say clickbaity headline, but it's probably more accurate because, let's be honest, that's really what they're going to call it. But the better way to think about it, it's more of a 12S, because the main upgrade that's really coming is that it's not the notch is getting smaller, it's just the area of where it is going to be quote unquote smaller, and at the same time adding 120 hertz to the display also is a pretty, I wouldn't say big reason. To me, just being honest, adding 120 hertz to an iPhone is still stupid. I still think adding 120 hertz displays to smartphones was the stupidest thing we could have done. All it does is just kill battery life. All we really needed, if we're being honest, if we wanted a better refresh rate, would have just been cap it at 90. 90 is the perfect sweet spot. It doesn't kill your battery, but it is noticeably smoother than 60 hertz, because if you look at the jump from 60 to 90, you can tell the difference. If you look at the jump from, say, 90 to 120, I'm sorry, but you cannot realistically tell the difference. It's pretty hard to tell, especially on a smartphone display. Like, it's one of those things where it's tricky to tell. However, why are we talking about this? If we already know all this information that basically the iPhone 13 it might as well just be called the 12s if we're just being honest here. Why are we talking about it? And to me, the reason I'm talking about it is mainly because it constantly goes back to the idea that the smartphone market is kind of dog crap right now, if we're being honest here. And I know not a lot of people like hearing that. A lot of people don't like, saying, hey, the smartphone market's doomed. And I'm not saying that it's doomed. What I am saying, though, is that we're starting to notice that, hey, we're getting the same thing over and over again, and we're not really getting much benefit to buy a new phone every year. And this is the trend that I've noticed that, prime example, let's look at this. The iPhone 12 mini. I'm using this as an example so you can get my point. The iPhone 12 mini, when it came out, everyone was like, oh, this is the iPhone everybody wants. It's, the modern design, but a smaller footprint. It's easier to hold. And then this puppy came out first. The iPhone SE. That came out early in the year. And as you can currently tell, because you can look at the sales of said iPhone 12 mini, it is currently one of the worst selling iPhones ever made. And that's just a jarring reality, and that it's going to get discontinued. Like right now, I think at the time of this recording, they already announced that they're not going to be manufacturing it anymore. So it's one of those things where it's a tough pill to swallow, because everybody wanted the smaller form factor iPhone, but when push came to shove, no one really bought it. That doesn't mean it wasn't a good phone. Like, to be honest, when I switched over to an iPhone, I wanted to get the 12 mini. The only problem was, I couldn't get a good deal on it. Like, my Best Buy gift cards, wouldn't allow me to buy a 12 mini at Best Buy, which is still weird that Best Buy doesn't sell unlocked phones, but they sell the SE unlocked. So that's kind of dumb. So I ended up buying the SE, and to me, the SE fits my needs. I get a battery case, which is something that if you buy a 12 mini or any of the 12s, you don't get a battery case, because they didn't make one. They're expecting you to buy the MagSafe one, which, let's be honest, that's dog crap. MagSafe is just a gimmick. It's dog crap. Let's be honest, on the iPhone, it was stupid that they even added it. However, what are we getting at? What we're getting at here is that the smartphone market has clearly shown that small iterations are all we're getting. We're not really getting some big revolutionary, change in design, or say something big that warrants talking about a new phone. Because if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, all it's going to do is a minor camera improvement, probably better software, obviously a new processor that's probably barely better than the old one. That doesn't make your old one bad to begin with. Your old one's still as good as you bought it. It's just there's a new chip on the market. That happens with technology all the time. Is you can't really future-proof stuff when technology constantly moves at a fast pace. That doesn't mean what you had before is bad. That just means, hey, they put something new. Like, prime example, I have a 3900X in my computer. When it first came out, everyone was like bee's knees, and besides like the 3950 and the Threadrippers and stuff, but the 3900 and the 3950X were definitely some of the best processors you can buy. Then they got replaced by the 5900X and the 5950X, which, just being plain honest, doesn't make my processor bad. It just means there's a new model on the market. I don't care. I don't really need it. So I can hold on to mine for 5 years and be perfectly fine. But what am I getting at? Let's think about it. The iPhone 13, 12s is probably the better name, but you get my point. Is besides the 120 hertz and the minimal change to the notch, or I would say minimal to no change at all to the notch, what are you really getting new? Or what is the new experience that you're going to get with this new iPhone if you buy it? If you already own a 12 Pro, 12 Pro Max, or 12 mini, this is a year where it's like, is it really worth upgrading? Like, I get with the 11 and the 11 Pro to the 12s, so 12 and the 12 Pro, it's a whole different ball game. Even though, yes, the phone is basically the same, the only difference is you add 5G. And then you add the new the new big camera on the 12 Pro Max. But aside from that, going into this year, what's really the difference besides the 120 hertz, which, let's be honest, 120 hertz is going to tank your battery life. It's just, unless you have a massive size battery in your phone, it's going to tank your battery. And that's just a cold hard reality, because when you want, could it be different if they use the whole promotion technology? probably it might be a better implementation of what we currently have with smartphones. But, or I would say, well, actually it is with smartphones because that's just how it is. But maybe we could see a different iteration of it, like just like how the iPads have the 120 hertz. But to me, in the grand scheme of things, it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't see myself caring so much. And even John Prosser said the same thing. And granted, John, obviously being him, like, I get it's a whole shtick and routine, but he has a point when he even said it. Like, covering iPhone 13 news is kind of redundant because it's like, we kind of already know everything. John already posted out some CAD renders a long time ago. He already talked about what to expect. That yes, this was the internal talking that the iPhone 12s were supposed to have the 120 hertz, but because of some constraints with the whole pandemic and supplies, they decided to push it back for the iPhone 13s. At the same time, we're still stuck in the rudder where, what are we going to do? Or in this case, is it even worth upgrading? Because I can sit here and talk about the iPhone 13 leak. I can sit here and talk about all this jazz. But at the end of the day, does it really fix the issue with the smartphone market, or really fix the perception that buyers have right now, which is asking the question, do I need to upgrade this year? And the answer, to be honest, unless you are changing how you're using your phone, like, you really have to ask yourself in the grand scheme of things. Like, yes, it's your money. You're allowed to do whatever you want. But we also want to be rational, sane human beings and ask questions and not just, buy something just because. Like, obviously a prime example, this would be like Prime Day. Like, Prime Day just came by and I bought a couple things, but I justified them because they were things that I actually needed, or things that I needed to do what I wanted my, say, camera to do. Like a new filter, like attachments for my flash so I can have better diffusers for them, because flash photography, just being honest, if you're into photography, is kind of a pain in the ass to deal with sometimes, which, spoilers, it's kind of a pain in the ass because you got to figure it out. But aside from the point, Prime Day was a prime example. Maybe people buying stuff without even really having a second thought. And I was going to buy, like, say, a new monitor. So I looked into it. I did my research and it just wasn't the right fit for me. It wasn't what I was looking for. So here we are with the iPhone 13. Is it worth upgrading if you have a 12? Based on what we know right now, the answer is no. Nothing really changes. There is no substantial improvement that's like, oh, it's a different experience. I'm like, besides the new display and possibly like the illusion of a smaller notch, is it really worth it? Because if you want to tank your battery life, then go right ahead. Go for the big boy. Obviously, they have stated that the 120 hertz is only going to be on the Pro models, but even then, like, yes, we're hearing battery size increases for the phones and everything, but is it really going to be able to handle the battery strain that 120 hertz gives? Because think about it. I was on a S21 Ultra, S21. I was on an OnePlus 8T. I've had a OnePlus 7 Pro. I've had, what's another phone that had a high refresh rate? Yeah, a Pixel 5. And yes, well, it is nice using my SE, and I'm like, I don't really care, and I can't really tell difference because the SE does what I need it to do, and that's all the that's just the facts. Whether you like to agree with it or not, is, does your phone continue to do what you need it to do? And to be honest, 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to be yes, that it's still going to keep doing the same thing you've always used it for. Like, you really have to ask yourself, do you really gain anything with more power? We saw this with the M1 iPad Pro. Yes, we got this new power. We got all this more RAM. We got this more storage. And look, nothing changes. Granted, that's more of a software issue rather than a hardware issue. But you also have to ask, it's like most smartphones, or at least in the general consensus that most people use their smartphones, is looking through the internet, browsing social media, and then, obviously calling and texting people and stuff like that, or checking emails. You having a more powerful phone that's probably at least 5 to 10% more powerful, is it really going to change anything besides loading Instagram and Twitter and stuff a second faster? The answer is no. It doesn't really change anything. Now, I get smartphone photography is taking off. I get because Apple making the whole Pro Raw thing and other companies like Sony making, their phones primarily compatible with their Sony cameras. But let's be honest, Sony cameras are still I would say arguably some of the most popular, if not the most popular mirrorless cameras on the market right now. But you get what I'm getting at is it's most people don't really use that. It's only for a specific group of individuals. Like no one, like an average Joe is not going to go out and be like, yeah, I'm going to go shoot in raw photography. I'm going to shoot in Dolby Vision. I'm going to shoot like, no, they don't even know what the hell that is. They're like, dude, okay, this phone calls, texts, does what I need it to do. It's all that matters. Like I would be fairly certain, unless you're using obviously social media apps and playing games on your phone, that's a whole different thing. But if you're just using your phone for calling and texting, a friggin' flip phone would be the best option for you. Anything like a flip phone, Nokia, anything in that ballpark, best fit for you. But you get where I'm getting at with this is that the iPhone 13 doesn't make much logical sense to get. Like it's one of those years where yes, it's considered an S year. Same thing would happen with the iPhone 7 to the iPhone 8 was yes, the 8 was basically the 7S and the 7S Plus. That's what they were. It was literally the exact same phone with just an upgraded processor. They just wanted to call it the 8. And then what happened? They made the 10. The 10 was the big show stealer. Now, does that mean that Apple can't do something like that again? No, they clearly can. It's just you have to acknowledge that's just not how things are right now. And that's okay. It's okay that's not how things are right now. It's just we have to acknowledge that this is reality, And to me, am I interested to watch the event when it happens? Yes. Do I really care though? Not really. I don't really care if I'm being honest with you. Like this is just an S year. Nothing really changes. No needle is being moved, and people are still going to praise it as the best iPhone ever, even though it literally does the exact same thing as last year's model with no difference. I would probably put money on that. There would barely be any difference. The performance difference, let's be honest, it's going to be there, but is it going to be massive like Apple pretends like it's going to be? No, not really. It's not going to be massive, Chief. It's probably going to be very minimal at best, like it always has been. It's just... man, it's just crazy. Like to me, it's crazy that yes, everyone's allowed to do whatever they want with their money. We've established this. We know that this is just how people are. That people are gonna buy things irrationally. They're just gonna buy things just because they can. Or if they have more suspendable income or disposable income is probably the better term to use. Then yes, they're going to buy more stuff. That's just common sense, rational thinking. If you catch my drift with that, but. In the end, what do you guys think? Do you guys really care about the iPhone S, like the iPhone 12, or in this case, really the 13 is really what it is, even though I would say it's pretty much the 12S, like you might as well call it that. Now, the one thing that's also interesting about it, just a side note, is that there is going to be a new Mini, which it's not saying that the Mini that we have now is a failure. It's just in comparison to a lineup, it didn't do as well, even though yes, like we get how many people buy Apple products. So even if it's just 3%, that's still a large amount of people. It's just, man, when you really go into it and you think about it long and hard, it's not really worth upgrading. If I'm being honest with you, it doesn't make much logical sense to upgrade. I don't know why people would. It just, it's just one of those things. Now, will it be interesting to see how Apple implements 120 hertz? Absolutely, yes. Do I think anything will change with the cameras besides like a minor bump and probably tweaks to Pro Raw? Maybe adding some new feature, maybe Adobe Cloud support or something like that. Like, and then, man, it just feels like a boring year. Like the smartphone market has been on decline for a while. We know it has. And it's just this thing, it really is one of those things where it's a shame that the smartphone market is on decline. It's a shame that even though, yes, it's doing better even after the pandemic, which still doesn't make any sense, that it's still generating large amounts of revenue. That doesn't mean that companies can get lazy and just pump out small incremental updates. Like people want actual reasons to upgrade, and when you're giving them half-assed reasons to upgrade, of course they're not going to upgrade. Now granted, there's still going to be people that are going to buy it first try, and that's just how it is. There's people that like being early adopters, and what can you really do? But at the end of the day, hey man, like I like having fun talking about this stuff. I haven't talked about it in a while. Like obviously, if you haven't seen the Father's Day episode, there'll be probably a card at the end of the video that will tell you to, hey, go watch the video. And it's a really good video. I really had fun doing it, and obviously it was Father's Day, so being someone that still has their dad, hey, I was appreciative that I get to have my dad, even though there's people that I wish that were there, like my granddad. But that's how things are, man. And I really appreciate you guys taking time to listen to me, to download this episode, to share this episode. Again, please do all the things that above I mentioned to help get the word out there, get the episode out there. But I also want to say thank you guys for everything. Thank you for being patient with me, especially given this whole time frame as things have been wacky as all heck. That's how things have been. It's just wacky, weird. But thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate it. Obviously, the Patreon backers, you get to see this episode early, so I hope you guys enjoy. But I'll continue to keep thinking about all of you guys, because you guys are great. You guys are wonderful. You guys always support me, and I want to do everything I can to support you guys and give back, because you guys have done so much for me. But thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a wonderful and safe weekend. Please don't do anything dumb, guys. I know it's kind of hard to do, because let's be honest, we like to do dumb stuff over the weekend. But be safe. Don't do anything dumb. Try not to get arrested or anything like that. But thank you guys for everything, and I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next week for Wednesday, and we will have a lot of topics to talk about. Granted, not everything, because let's be honest, we can't just sit here and talk about everything. But let's have a discussion. That's probably the better term to use. But I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you guys for everything. And as always, please, guys, be safe out there and don't do anything dumb. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.